Hi, Gitte Larsen again. So in the previous videos, we talked about the company's need to raise capital when planning on investments, new investments, doing investments. And we talked about the companies could raise capital internal, meaning going for new investors or more share capital or more deposits, etc., for the owner's equity, or they could go external to financial partners, banks, etc., to find external loan or external capital to raise capital for their investments. And now we're going to take a closer look to these external finances because they are very interesting in calculating the actual cost of borrowing capital from banks or from financial institutes. So this is what we're going to take a closer look at today. Doing this, you will meet, let me just find that here. Doing this, you will meet different types of loan. You will meet 3 different types of loan and how to calculate the actual percentage rate or the actual cost that you have in relation to these types of loans and know how to calculate them. So the annuity loan that I will present to you in this video, the bullet loan, and the serial loan are the 3 types of loan that you must know after this semester, and how to calculate their actual costs connected to these loans. So costs are one of the assessment criteria that we talked about in the previous videos. Assessment criteria used to evaluate what loan should a company, what kind of loan should a company take when trying to raise capital for an investment. So back to the annuity loan. You probably remember from the investment subject that annuity means an identical series of payments. And this is the same thing when we talk about what characterizes these different types of loans. We have to look at what characterizes it in regards of the payment, the interest that they pay, and their installments. So the characteristics of the annuity loan, looking from the financial perspective, is that the payments that we have up here, the payments are identical throughout the whole duration time. So these payments are a result from interest calculated on the previous period plus the installments. Now remember that the installments is the actual repayment of the principal, the amount that the company has to pay back and has borrowed. So the characteristics of the annuity loan is that it has identical payments throughout the whole duration time, and if you take a look at the outstanding debt profile, that means that at the beginning the company will pay a lot of interests to this loan. You can also see it visualized over here in this graphical illustration over here. So the interest that the company pays at the beginning is very high. You can see it here. And then as duration time is passing, they will pay less and less interests and have more and more installments or repayments of their actual principal. And therefore the outstanding debt profile will look like this. To begin with, you don't notice a lot of repayment of the actual loan, of the actual principal, but then you will at a point start to see it decrease faster than to begin with. So that's the annuity loan. And as usual, I have an example for you in Excel that I want you to recreate, and I will do some explanations as we go along in this example in Excel. There are a few steps. I like to take things stepwise. So when we take a look at the annuity loan, there are 2 steps to follow to calculate the actual interest rate, or also called the actual cost or the actual annual percentage rate. This is known as APR. So when you see this in the future, you will know it's the actual cost of some kind of loan. So let's jump into Excel and take a look. Now I started off a little earlier. So here is the example I want you to recreate. You can press pause and you can type all of these things that I have written here. It's a few notes that you might want to use. So this is just a thought of example. I will give you a principal, so a borrowed amount that a company must pay back. I will give you a fixed amount of borrowing cost, but borrowing cost can be different things. It can be administration cost, duties, taxes, commission to the financial institute. It can be if you buy bonds, take a loan by buying value papers who are actually a loan, and you buy those to a certain index or certain course, which is probably not over 100 or 100, it's less than 100. So the difference from, if let's say you buy the bonds at a course or an index price of 96, you have a 4% bond loss as a cost that you need to consider. So, but I will give you a fixed amount of cost to place here. So when you subtract the borrowing cost from the principal, you'll get the proceeds. And the proceeds is the amount that the company will actually receive. All right, so let's put some numbers to this. So the amount, the principal here, that the company needs to pay back in this example is 18 million. All right. The borrowing costs are 200,000, meaning that the principal minus the borrowing costs. So the proceeds are 17,800,000. So from the 18 million that the company borrows, it will receive 17,800,000. This also means that you could face a case where you would have the situation where the case would ask you, say the company needs 17,800,000 for this investment. How much is the principal they will need under the circumstances of these different types of costs? So we can switch the perspective like that. In my example here, the interest rate is 6%. The duration time, so the lifetime of this loan, the time we have to repay the loan is 10 years. But I have said that this is quarterly payments. So if we pay every quarter, why can't I write years? Every quarter over 10 years, that means we have 40 number of payments. I hope that makes sense. So if we pay every quarter, we also pay a quarterly interest. And very simple, not a lot of explanation here. You calculate the quarterly interest by taking the annual interest and divide it by 4. And put this into percentage and add a few decimals here. All right. So the reason for this, if you would have had payments every half year, so 2 times a year, you would only divide, in this case, 6 by 2, so that the quarterly interest would be 3%. If you have yearly interest, yearly payments, you wouldn't divide this 6. Then the 6% would be the payment, the interest you pay every installment or every payment. Hopefully that makes sense. Otherwise, we will take it further in class. Okay. So this is it. So the reason why it's important to remember what characterizes the different types of loan is that tells you something about what is the step that you need to do. What is the first number you need to calculate when you start to calculate the annual percentage rate, the actual cost of this. Step 1 is always to calculate the fixed amount. And the fixed amount, I'll just write that, calculate the fixed amount. So the fixed amount, when we talk about an annuity loan, as I said to begin with, is the actual payment. So the payment in the case of annuity would be the fixed amount that you would calculate first. And after that, we will calculate the actual cost. Right. So the fixed amount would be the payment in this case. So the quarterly payment here For this example, we are going into our Excel functions or financial expansions, and you will find the function called PMT. Now I know it says ydelse here, but you need the one called PMT because you want to find the payment you have every time you have a payment date. So you know this is just the semi-function as we use for the investment part. First thing is to find the interest rate. Now here you want to find the quarterly interest rate because you have a payment every quarter. So it is 1.5 in this case. Number of payments, you know we have 40 payments to this. The present value of this would be the proceeds. So the present value of this calculation would be the proceeds. The future value of what you have to pay back, I'm putting a little minus in front here, would be the 18 million. I think I made a mistake. The present value of this right now is the principal, sorry. Because that's the whole loan you have to pay back. Let me just rethink what I said here. Sorry. So the present value, PV here, for what you have to pay back over 40 payments at an interest of 1.5 is 18 million. Okay, sorry for the mistake, but now you remember. So press enter. Excel will come up with a negative number for you. This makes sense. Think of it as a logic that you have to pay this. This is a cash outlay for the company. All right. So let me just write that you use the PMT function for this. So that's the quarterly payment. So the actual interest for this, we shall calculate the actual interest. And for this, you use the function rate. So go ahead and find the financial function rate. Again, number of payments, still 40. Now the payments you just calculated, so the calculation you just did, the minus 601,000 is the payments, and the present value of this, now here we come, the present value of this is the 17.8 million, because they don't actually get the 18 million. They don't receive the 18 million. Now put a few decimals on it, and here you will see that now it is not only 1.5%, but it is 1.561%. You have now considered the 200,000. Now this is a quarterly actual and interest, and we are interested in the annual percentage rate. So to do this, we use a little formula. We say 1 plus the interest that we have actually just calculated. We uplift it. Now in this case, this is quarterly, so we want to take it 4 times forward in time to find the annual, right? Because there are 4 quarters per year. So we uplift this into 4. And now we want to isolate the interest. And we do that by subtracting 1. So we use this formula over here, and when we do that, we have calculated the actual percentage rate, the annual, percentage rate. So follow me here. 1 plus the interest. Use the actual interest we have just calculated. Now uplift this into 4, isolate it by subtracting the 1, and press enter. And now you want to put this into percentage and add a few decimals. So the 6.3932 is the annual percentage rate, which is a little more than the 6% initially stated here. Doesn't sound like a lot, but on a loan of 18 million, it's still an amount that the company should consider. So that's the calculation of the annual percentage rate, so the actual costs of an annuity loan. So for next video, we are going to take a look at the bullet loan. See you in the next video.